Yep. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Is Damon Richardson, the Bane of the conscious community. Going on, part of people, a place to be. I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city, Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? Meaning early in the afternoon. Hope everybody's having a good Friday thus far. As always, let me say what's up to the party people in the chat. We got Bodega Lady Michelle Turner. What up? Bodega Lady D News in the building. We got Terrence Jones. We got Bodega Lady Shawnee Miller, a.k.a. Shotty Mills. Brrrah. You know what I mean? We got Tyler Lott in the building. Who else we got here? We got LOV. You know what I mean? What's going on, sir? Of course, we got SOC representing Weapon Apologetics. You know what I mean? That's an inside joke. It's okay. Who else we got in here? What's good? What's good? What's good? So yeah, guys. So we got my man Dr. Detroit, also known as Apologist in Detroit. What's going on? You know what I mean? We got CP in the building. He says, "I'm ready for the Batman breaker." Yes, yes, we all are. So of course we have another. Well, he's not gonna break your bat, Bill for Speed. I know you're Batman, so it's not a shot towards you. You know what I mean? So I don't want you to feel like this is the alternate universe, right? Where that Batman is gonna get his back broken, not you. You're in what's that, Prime World 1 in the DC universe, right? So hey, we got Warrior Woman in the house. That's what's up. So yeah, guys. So we're gonna have Mr. Richardson come in a second. You know, he is a very, very busy man. You know, he's out here just making things happen. You know, not only is he a trainer when it comes to, you know, logos, but he's also working on his PhD. You know, he's in process of that. So yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I just want to make sure. You know what I mean? It's not, you know, the multiverse is very complicated. So. You know what I mean? But yeah, man. So we're just waiting for the man the hour to come through. He should be here shortly. So if there's any questions you guys want to have prepared for Mr. Richardson, please start thinking about it right now. And of course, please share the link. Right? You got to share the link. And also, if you like to support the ministry, you got the Patreon, you know. So that'd be definitely grateful, so we could continue the work that we've been doing thus far. So yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been supportive up to this point. You know, this month marks pretty much my first year as a urban apologetic YouTuber. You know, I don't know if there's a shorter name for that, but yeah, I just want to thank you so much that so many of you have decided to come with me on this journey. You know, and yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've been doing this. I mean, technically, the first time I really was on was, and you saw it this Monday. It was a throwback video with Vocab Malone in 2016. And, you know, at that time, I didn't even have a webcam. I had an old Dell computer. It was already like 6 years old, even at that time. I actually still have that computer. It actually still working. It's a workhorse, but it is slow. But so it's grainy. It looks like VHS. You know what I mean? But we've come a long way. You know, I had to step it up, and it's because of you guys. You know, and the encouragement and the inspiration I've gotten from you guys. So I just want to personally say thank you for being here. You know, special shout out to the Bodega ladies. You know, for being out here and being just great supporters of the brand, I guess, if you want to call it that. So yeah, you know, and then of course later on tonight we're gonna come back on as always. We know what it is. It's Bodega night. right? The Bodega Bible Talk every Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where, you know, thank you, Ms. Titus. Appreciate that. Thank you, Shotty Mills. Yes, yes. So so it's really, I really appreciate the love that I received, and you know, it's not easy. You know, there is a lot of time where I got to do a lot of studying, and now, you know, I received some you know, some opposition. Thank you, Rome. Thank you, appreciate it, man. So you know, I had some people coming at me. You know, some of you have noticed that. You know, and we'll be discussing that as well. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I have Mr. Richardson coming on the platform. You know what I mean? So to discuss that. And again, and it's not to be it's not like it's beef, right? With the conscious community. It's not that we hate these people. We love these people and we want to see them come to Christ. Right? And we also know that a lot of these guys who have platforms, they disseminate, you know, information that have inspired people to walk away from the gospel. You know, and that's why we deal with these guys, you know, because we know that they are the fonts of misinformation that people have drunk and have used this to walk away from the faith. So we got to deal with these guys. You know, we have to uphold the gospel. You know, we got to defend it. You know, we have to have an apologia so that people, when they ask for the why do we have the hope that we have, we are prepared to answer, right? And that's what we're here for. That's what you guys are here for. You know what I mean? So yes, Miss Titus, no beef, old kosher, you know. But you know, they're coming for your boy now, you know, and you know, I have to blame Damon and Eric Mason for that. It's their fault, because it is my fault too, because I started hanging out with these guys. I knew that there was targets on their back. So eventually that's gonna be one for me, you know. So that's an interesting question. I asked Damon Richardson, is there anything good that could come from the conscious community? Anything that could be salvaged? Well, I think for me, obviously I'll have them answer as well, but for me, I think for many of them, first of all, a lot of them are very sincere in what they believe. You know, there are people, Black and brown people, looking for identity and for empowerment. You know, and those two things of themselves aren't bad things, right? That's the two existential questions all humans ask: who am I, and what I'm about. You know, so but with that being said, we'll get to that question later, because now, ladies and gentlemen, here we have, all the way from the West Coast right now, we got the bad boy of urban apologetics, the Bobby Brown of
New York hat on.
Damon Richardson. What's going on, sir?
All right, man. Doing good, man. My apologies. I ran into a couple of little snags here in this morning, and or over here on this coast. It is just noon, so there we go.
Right. So for those who don't know Damon Richardson, he is the founder of Urban Logia Ministries, highly sought after speaker, Bible teacher, and Christian urban apologist. He was born in Queens, New York, raised in Clearwater, Florida, and now lives with his wife and children in Atlanta, GA. Damon lived his formative years as a Muslim and practiced the tenets of Islam through the teachings of Elijah Muhammad, the Nation of Islam, until he became a born-again believer of Jesus Christ at the age of 16 and began preaching a year later. It is Damon's hope and prayer that by deconstructing false ideas about Christianity, you'll be better able to articulate the basis of your faith and point millennials, urbanites, and other searching Christians to God's word and the gospel of Jesus Christ as the only answer to the needs of all humanity. Amen to that.
Amen. All right.
So how you feeling, sir? What's going on?
Hey, man, doing good, man. Good to be on with you, and always good to chat with you, chop it up about the word, and but everything is good, man. Everything is going well. How about with you?
I'm doing good. So you're now in the process now of finishing your doctorate, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And what is your what's the subject matter?
Yeah, so my dissertation focus is on the transformational leadership of African American pastors in predominantly white churches.
Wow.
And, yeah. So
Wow. It's a lot of friction and over there, man. That's whoo.
yes, indeed.
That's deep. That's deep. So once again, sir, you have broken the internet. And I don't think people really understand, or maybe they may need a refresher course on the backstory between your connection with the conscious community. And it's been a connection for quite some time. We're not even talking about the most recent events. You've been a part of this, you've been dealing with this particular set of people for some time. In
Right.
fact, at one point you were part of that, I guess, by being,
Absolutely.
Nation of Islam. So if you could give us your history with this, movement of the conscious.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick plug, there is an article in Christianity Today this month on my actual testimony, coming out of the Nation of Islam. Actually dropped, well, it's a September issue, but you could actually see it now. It's already online.
Nice.
And but to kind of summarize that, most of what you hear in the a lot of these conscious arguments against Christianity, most of that was essentially formulated by the Nation of Islam. And so even where there might be a number of different schools of thought in the conscious community, there is still a lot of core ideas that are shared, and so a lot of those shared ideas are a lot of the suspicions and a lot of the false narratives and histories that you hear about Christianity and about Black preachers and the church and so forth and so on. So a lot of that literally was formulated around the 30s by way of the Nation of Islam, and has just continued to be proliferated through Black communities since then. So a lot of them are not aware of where that comes from. And in fact, I was sharing that on a program on one of the conscious platforms the other day. And when I began to say certain things about Elijah Muhammad, they were still literally guys. I'm talking about, these guys are not in the Nation of Islam at all, but they were so deeply offended that I was even saying these things about Elijah Muhammad. And I'm like, you guys clearly don't understand a lot of things about that organization. And you've brought into this, like many Black people, you brought into this notion that they've existed to help the Black community. And they were even saying things like, no Black man has ever, no Black organization has ever done for the Black community what the Nation of Islam did. And I'm like, well, what did they do? Tell me what they did. Because I can tell you what the Black church has done.
Right.
So let's go, apples to apples. Let's talk about education. Let's talk about housing. Let's talk about jobs. Let's talk about, and you name it. And there it is. But they were so deeply offended. And that is what they don't realize is that they've inherited a lot of these views about Christianity and against Christianity, essentially from Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. And so even when they may have some disagreement with some of the things that they teach, a lot of that, the shell of a lot of their thinking was put together by, Nation of Islam ideology, so to speak. And so, so in reality, the conscious community is essentially a mosaic of different ideologies, but they do have core agreement, and that's why they're willing to work together when it comes down to thinking that they can sink Black Christians and Black pastors, the Black church, so forth, and so Christianity as a whole, so that they'll be willing to work together when it comes down to that, because they do share common ideologies. And so one good example of that is Brother Polite and Captain Tazariak hanging out together in Beverly Hills yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. You know, he's showing off his Rolls Royce with suicide doors and all this other stuff. And yeah, I'm all about money. You know, I'm all about money. And it's so funny that they flaunt this to their audiences, and then they turn right around out of the same lips, from the same lips, and talk about how black pastors are con artists. So, you know, and so now here are two guys who not just a couple of years ago were about to come to physical blows, but Damon Richardson offended him so badly. I mean, I offended this guy so badly, never called him a name, never used one expletive, never talked about his wives as some people have, and none of that. But I deeply hurt Polite so badly that he absolutely, not only does he absolutely refuse to debate me, but he absolutely refuses to even have a conversation with me. Yeah, him and Tazariak are about to debate, and they're just hanging out in Beverly Hills, and they were about to come straight to blows.
I've seen that video. Cross the line. Yeah. I remember that.
So all I'm saying is that that's just another con. They will do they do cheap things when it comes down to Christianity. They'll throw barbs out, but they absolutely refuse to do a real debate. We're not talking about the street stuff they do.
Right.
Those are not debates.
Right.
And people who think those are debates are people who absolutely know no better. They're none the wiser in terms of understanding what it is that is. But that's not debating. But they absolutely refuse to do that. And the only guy from their camp that was willing to do that, it went so badly for him that they refuse to deal with that guy now. It's just, folks, it went so badly for Jabari,
right,
that the conscious community essentially expelled him from their community because he participated in a formal debate, and it went so badly. And it's not even a matter of win or lose. It's a matter of he clearly was unprepared. He clearly was didn't know what he was talking about, and he clearly didn't make his case. Mm-hmm. So you don't even have to put a win-lose on it. When a man makes his case, you know he's made his case.
Right.
Even if he's not right, he made his case. This fella didn't make a good case at all. Mm. He didn't make a good case at all. So it's not even a matter of winning and losing. It's just that's exactly what it looks like for any of them to step into a formal debate with black preachers, pastors, or Christian apologists who are prepared, who do know what they're talking about, who have either been formally or even informally trained. The reality is that it's polls and articles apart in terms of what that looks like. Whenever you get the two camps together in dialogue and discourse, immediately right. Who knows what they're talking about and who doesn't. And the only way that they can ever win points is when you are having conversation with them informally, and it's just kind of a back and forth. And for people in that camp, they think whoever the loudest talker is the winner.
Right.
And so these guys, so what's funny is that the people who don't know what they're talking about are debating, and the people who know even less than them are the ones cheering them on and determining whether or not they won in a discussion.
Right.
And so it's like it's bad over there. It really is.
But to give a quick synopsis of what we're talking about. So for the last few years, I know you, Dr. Mason, Chris Broussard have been trying to formulate a team debate with their best and brightest in the conscious community. And, there's been times where it looked like it was going to happen and things would fall out, and it was just very hard for communication. And finally, from those discussions, that's when Bantu and Jabari finally, they got together and they decided to have their own one-on-one And as you said, Jabari didn't fare well. Shout out to Jabari though, because he showed up. You got to give it to him. The man showed up, and he was willing to have a formal debate. So much respect for him for that. But
absolutely.
So, but yeah, he did. He did lose, and we know he lost. Even if we didn't think he lost, we know he lost because of how his peoples treated him afterwards.
Right.
And very disrespectfully, by the way. They cursed him out. They dragged him for like a month because of that, which is sad. But they clearly showed that they themselves believe he lost as well.
That's true.
Right. So then we come to you just throwing it out on social media how you would like to debate Polite one-on-one, and then that almost became a thing. So quickly talk about that.
So once the whole team debate piece fell apart, we started, certain individuals started talking about doing one-on-one debates with, certain people in their camp and what that would look like. And, and just kind of pairing up according to similar styles. Would it make sense to, there was at one point, there was some discussion about maybe Mason and Tazariak. Again, not that there's any intellectual matching there. It's like it ain't even close. but you can see the obvious optical kind of matchup, right? Two big cats. You know what I mean? And, that would just be, so the obvious matchup for me would have been Polite. Right, from an optical standpoint.
Yes, sir.
Again, not intellectual.
Aesthetically, it makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah.
These are the kind of things that make sense. And then we're talking about people who are considered thought leaders in their community. So it doesn't make sense to go grabbing somebody who follows them. And maybe young Pharaoh would make sense while he might be the most popular. He's not well known for doing any kind of debating,
right?
Kind of a deal, So I don't think there was any consideration early on in terms of maybe challenging him. So that's how that came about. So I just threw it out online. Have somebody hit me up about Polite. Honestly, I didn't think that anything really would come of it. People started putting the buzz out there, man, that would be good. Chris Broussard actually made it happen. He actually reached out to Polite. Polite was willing to have the conversation, and kind of started out as a three-way combo. And then it was just essentially at that point, me and Polite and I just having a conversation about the debate and really formulating what that would look like, all of the logistics and all of your earlier conversations, which took place over a period of months, maybe 2-3 months, they were all going well. Everything had already been decided. The only thing that was left to be decided was venue, and that was something that I was working on.
Right.
I'm sorry, there were two things to be decided. So all of your logistics and in terms of how we would get paid, the rules, the topics, subtopics, all of that was already decided. There were only two major things yet to be decided, and we split that up. And that was my piece to find the venue, and then his piece was to find the moderator.
Right.
He was considering
Charlemagne
the God,
right?
And felt pretty confident that because of his relationship with Charlemagne, that he could make that happen. So that's pretty much where we were stalled out. And it not that the debate was stalled out, it was just that we couldn't go forward with marketing until we knew those two things, because those two things were going to be critical for setting the actual
which is not true, because he made his own flyer on his Instagram, remember?
Yeah, and that's right. And so that's and that was my thinking right there. My thinking is it's no sense in marketing this until we have a solid date and we know where this is going to happen, We know where and when it's going to happen. He did come back with this whole marketing idea. He had some cheesy looking flyer that he created with some
on his phone, yeah.
And it had some superimposed picture of him and some little small picture of me. And when he showed it to me, I'm like, no, I don't like that, man. I said, this doesn't look like a debate. This looks like, David and Goliath. You know what I mean? Like, right. You're sending a message that you are so much bigger or so much more important than me. There's a psychological effect to the way that this looks. No, you know what? The next fly I'll do, I'll have your picture big and this, that, and the other. I said, listen, I got guys, man, that can be on this. They'll do this for free. And these guys are experts in graphics. I got guys that can make this look right. Let's not put this out there. And in fact, let's wait to put anything out until we've got the solid date and the venue. I said, because trust me, the interest level is already there. We don't have to worry about marketing at this point. I said, I already put it out on my page. Folks want to know when this is going to happen. So let's just, step by step. He went on and did it anyway. Okay. I can't control him. But that was the last conversation we had until that one fateful Saturday.
The infamous phone call.
The infamous phone call. And so the only reason we had that conversation is because, again, I kept sending him text message after text message after text message. Hey, man, we need to meet. We got a couple of things I need to update you on. And he kept, well, yeah, I'm gonna hit you up this, that, the other. Until finally he was like, hey, man, listen, are we going to do this debate or no? I said, because I can't seem to catch up with you. Just let me know whether you want to do the debate. And oh, no, I want to do the debate. How about Saturday, man? Is Saturday good? I'm like, good. Saturday will work. And so again, you guys know the story. He called me that Saturday and, hey, man, I got Sonnetter on the line. And again, the interesting thing to that is that early on, he was adamant that he specifically had said this to me multiple times. He said, man, I like you, man. He said, he said, I like the fact that you're not afraid to not only do this debate, but you're not afraid of the business side of it as well. And I'm like, oh yeah, definitely. We deserve to be compensated for the work that we're doing and this, that, and the other. I said, I don't have any problem with that. So he was very seemingly impressed with that. But he said to me that specifically, you and I are competent enough to handle this with our own teams. We don't need third-party teams. We don't need Sonnetter in on this. This is not a Sonnetter Studios type of enterprise. I got my own people. You got your own people. Boom. So it was really surprising when he calls me that Saturday and he's got Sonnetter on the phone. And I already know the hustle is in. Once Sonnetter is on the phone, that's all it's about. He doesn't have any other interest in it other than making money. I mean, Sonnetter is a street hustler. That's what he is. I mean, there's nothing noble about Sonnetter. There's no real information that he's giving out that's helpful to anybody, that's accurate, that's true, that's beneficial, that's edifying. Sonnetter is a hustler. He's a street hustler. And so I knew that the hustle was in once he's on the line. And I even asked him, said, what do you have to do with this conversation? Like, I don't pull any punches. I literally asked him that. Like, why are you on the line? Like, what do you have to do with this conversation? Oh, no, I'm just listening. This, that, the other. Okay. But as I continued to listen, it became apparent to me that this whole weigh-in thing was an opportunity for them to make money off of it. Right. If I'm not set to make any money until the debate, but because they do these so-called weigh-ins, which are really just pre-debates, right, they can market that. They can make money off of that. And then Damon Richardson is sitting over here completely cut out of the whole picture. Right. And so what I told him is that, first of all, I didn't sign up for 2 debates, just one. And this was not part of any discussion. And so, mind you, now for anybody that's listening and may be confused, I never declined the debate. In fact, I was willing to meet them halfway and compromise and say, okay, I'll do this so-called weigh-in, which is really nothing but a debate. I'll do it, but I'll do it under these circumstances. Here's what it would need to look like, because since you said your community just needs to kind of feel me out and all this other stuff, I like, I'm not trying to put myself, on some sort of display and prove myself, some sort of trial for your community, for them to give me the nod. Oh yeah, he's competent enough to debate, polite. Because that's not really the issue. The real issue is whether or not your guy is competent enough to debate me. But I said, okay, if that's what they want to look for, they're the mob, they need flesh and blood in their mouths and all this other stuff. Okay, I'll give you a play. Here's what we'll do. Sonetta, you'll ask us 3 questions and no more. I'll respond, he'll respond, and we'll move on to the next question. No rebuttals. I said, once you start first and second rebuttal, you're in a debate. But if you're telling me this is really just a sizing up, a weigh-in, well, that's what it needs to be, because a weigh-in is not a fight. Nobody's sparring in the weigh-in. Nobody's doing an exhibition fight in the weigh-in. It's a weigh-in, and it's a sizing up. So in that way, he can size me up, I can size him up, his audience can size me up, and they can do that by listening to the way that I articulate my response and the way that he does his. That's all they need. And if you tell me that they need more than that, then I know you're really trying to hustle me, because I know it doesn't take that. Well, that's not the way we do it. I said, I don't care how you do it. This wasn't part of the conversation. If he had said that earlier, then I probably would have either agreed or disagreed, and we wouldn't even be at this stage of the conversation. But this debate was going to happen on the conditions that we decided, and now you guys are throwing a contingency in there that is essentially it's non-negotiable. Right. And you're telling me that it can't happen unless I fully agree to exactly the way that you guys want to do it. I said that either sounds like it's play by my rules or no way at all. And if I choose to play by your rules, I already know the hustle that's going on behind that and how that's going to essentially spoil the real debate, because you guys are not only going to market that and make money, but then you guys are going to essentially edit and do all of these things to try to make me look bad ahead of the actual debate. I don't have time for that. I said, but if you're willing to meet me halfway, let's go for it. Right. And well, I have to get back to you. I said, listen, man, didn't you say you wanted to debate me? Let's just debate. We'll figure the money piece out. We're going to make the money, but let's just debate. How about we do that? And don't worry about all this other stuff. You said you want to debate. Oh, I said, man, listen, we even decided on the phone call a tentative date in September. I said, how about we just show up? You just show up in September on the day that we agreed, and we'll make it happen. Well, I still got to think about it, blah, 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 blah. So it was at that point that I said, okay, I know how this is going to happen. I know what's going to happen after I hang up. Him and Sonetta are going to go back to the so-called Sonetta studios and and cook up a whole narrative about what happened on that phone call. Right. And again, just like, when I was in the, corporate world, if there's no email, then it didn't happen.
Right, there's no paper trail. Right.
There's nothing to say that it did or didn't happen the way. So they could say one thing, I can come back and say, no, that's not how it happened. But again, there's no record of it. So as far as other people are concerned, it would have been believable, whatever they said. So I said, well, I'll beat them to the punch. Again, they underestimated me. So I said, well, I since he's going to back out, I want people to know why he's backing out and why he's backing out. Has nothing to do with me. It's not me backing out of the debate. And so I just let the phone call roll. And at the end of the day, they can't say that that was dishonest. I mean, if they want to say, well, it was sneaky to, to record us without us knowing, okay, even if I gave them that, they can't be mad at the fact that people heard their own words, right? It's not like I told people this is what Polite told me. See, and at the end of the day, I think that is what they are really most upset about, is that people got to hear their own words, namely Polite. It wasn't my spin. It wasn't me doing what Sonetta is doing. Oh, right. Chopping videos up and this, that, and the other. And oh man, Polite got crushed. I crushed him in a debate, and then doing all of that. It wasn't a debate. It was a conversation about a debate. Right. And that was it. People got to hear it, and people could intellectually make their own decisions about what was going on. And what was clearly going on is that he was trying to find a way out of the debate, and which he did. And that is essentially the same thing that Shaka is trying to do. Right. I asked him for a debate.
Actually, before you get to that, I want to give some pretext to that as well. But I mean, for Polite to I mean, there's a man who calls Jesus the most fraudulent thing that ever happened to Black people. He shoots up Bibles with guns. And then for him to all of a sudden clutch his pearls because you was at a phone call, you know what I mean? It's so weird. But now to the Shaka Outmost thing. Now, my first interaction with Shaka was I did an interview with Speech from Arrested Development on his YouTube channel. And he had me there to talk about urban apologetics. So, I post a video, and unbeknownst to me, Shaka is a big Arrested Development fan, right? I didn't know that. So he's like, yo, you know him? I didn't know you know him, blah, 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 blah. So he reaches out to him on a thread on Facebook. But while he's doing that, he's throwing shots at me. He's like, yeah, if you want a real teacher, I'll teach you. Because that dude, he seems like a nice guy, but he don't know what he's talking about. I'm like, word? So, we threw some pleasant, shots at each other on thread, whatever. So now we go to the woke Christian Facebook group, and he's there. So he realizes, and I blame you for this, Damon, because, he knows we're friends, right? So it's like, and I knew hanging out with you would get me in trouble. So, and it's finally happened. But so he sees me with you and Mason, right? So it's like, oh, these guys, so he decides he wants to throw shots at all of us. Now he wants to come at us on the thread. Damon comes and says, listen, let's forget about this back and forth on the thread. Let's set up a debate. And what was the reason for him not doing it? Do you remember?
He said specifically, and I'm glad you're bringing this up because we'll get to that. I'm getting ahead of myself. I get excited. But he said he's working on some project right now. Right. And he didn't have the time.
Right. And one of those projects is a series of videos he's going to do called, I think, Christian Apologists and the Lies That They Tell. And he did an intro YouTube video.
That's right.
Names me, puts my government name out, my YouTube handle, puts my face up, and then says I'm his close personal friend, which is like, okay, I'm glad he kind of likes me, but the way you acting doesn't look like we're friends, but that's okay. So he mentions me, you, and Mason, which, by the way, I'm grateful that I'm in that lineup because I'm a nobody. So the fact that he thinks I'm with you guys, and that's amazing. But anyway, so he goes and does that. Now it's been a month since that intro,
right? And
yesterday he finally dropped the first episode. But anyway, he goes on Sonetta. I think it was on a Tuesday night. And mind you, he hasn't been on Sonetta's platform for a while because they had a falling out for a minute.
They had a falling out,
right? So he's on the platform, and he's on the platform to promote this video going at the urban apologists, right? Oh, and he threw some major shade at the urban apologist women as well in that intro. So anyway, so he's there, talking his talk. So I'm like, he mentions me, he mentions you. So I call you. And I'm like, yo, Dane, this dude's talking over here on Sonetta. So Damon jumps into the chat and he said, he asked, what's the phone number so I could call in? Because at that point, they were taking phone calls. So I asked them, in the chat, and one of the moderators puts out the number. Damon starts calling. And I'll have you take it from there.
Yeah, so I was calling, and it was funny because every time I called, by the time it got to the second or the third ring, I could literally see. And if you go back, you'll see Sonetter literally looking down at whatever device tells him who's calling in.
Right.
And even if it just gives him the last four digits, he knows the caller is coming in. And so every single time I would call, you see him look down at it, and then and he's wanting everybody to come in. And so yeah, oh yeah, we got so and so, and we got Zariak coming in. Yeah, we got Pastor Bennett. And so here was the interesting thing. By this time, I had probably called in 10 times, 10 maybe or more. And my glasses keep getting fogged up for some reason, but I called in about 10 or more times. And I'm texting BK, I'm texting you, I'm putting it in the chat like I'm calling, and what's the last four digits? There's the last four digits. We put it in there. He's still ignoring. So at this point, I realized that he doesn't want to let me in. He doesn't want to let me on. And I wasn't going to start no trouble. I just wanted to have a conversation. I wanted to be one of the callers. and because these guys are real fond of talking about how Christian pastors are always running from them, and I've got questions and things and when I ask this, nobody can ever answer it. So when we show up, all of a sudden they don't know how to answer the phone, or it's the same thing with Kevin Wesley, same thing with Ray Hagins. As soon as you show up, they put the challenge out, you show up, suddenly, well, I really don't want to have the conversation publicly. I don't really do any real debating, this, that, or the other, but you're always putting the challenge out. And,
right. And then at the same time you're calling, right? There's a bunch of us Christians on the chat. In fact, a lot of them are in this chat right now. We're all chiming in. Let Damon call in. Let Damon call in. Let Damon call in.
So he clearly knows who I am. Number one, right. If he didn't know anytime before the polite conversation, he knew from that day forward. Let's just say if we give him anything, let's say he didn't know me before the polite convo. Right. But from the polite convo forward, he definitely knew who I was. He had been on the phone call with me for 2 hours. So he knew exactly who I was. So he commences to say, he brings it up. He says, oh, there's this guy, Damon Richards, and that's a lie. My name's Richardson, but you say Richards to mispronounce it, right, so that it sounds like you have no idea who I am. Oh, there's some guy named Damon Richards trying to call. You know who that is? I don't know. And so Shaka and I have never verbally had a conversation.
Hold on for Damon. So he was on that chat here, this dude. So he said, Sai told everyone that he thought about you. Yeah, that's the problem, because before that, Sai jumped in the chat and said, I don't know who Damon Richardson is. So if you don't know someone, how can he tell everybody what he thinks of you if he doesn't know who he is?
Right.
Thank you very much.
And then the irony is that what comes out of both of their mouths all the time is Christian pastors are always lying. I can't stand them. They lie so much. And I mean, you're telling the biggest, boldest, black-faced lie in the world. Like, you don't know me, but then you proceed with a whole rant for like 7 minutes about how I'm a snake. I mean, like, you got to know me to know that, right?
Right.
And if you know me, then obviously, I'm not a snake, but you know something about me. Right. And if you feel that way, where does all this, if you don't know me, where does all this passion come from? Where's all this, I'm a snake, I'm no good. And then he goes on with the polite piece about it, which again, totally undermines the fact that he had just previously said he didn't know me. Shaka is like, yeah, let him on. I like the guy. The guy loves knowledge, this, that, and the other. Personally, what I think about that, I think that's just a tactic. Ron Shields uses that nice guy kind of tactic, this, that, and the other. And it's to kind of neutralize you with this whole friendly banter. Right. But even that's a sham. Because even when I was chatting with Shaka the next day, first few words out of his mouth, this guy's a You know, he's a punk. He's this, that, and the other, blah, 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 all this other stuff. And then a few minutes later, when he simmers down, oh, man, I consider you a friend. What? Like, these guys are, something is wrong with these fellas. Like, something is seriously wrong with these guys. But nonetheless, I tried to call in. I probably called about 35 or more times. The interesting thing is that another dead giveaway is he says, well, let's let Pastor Bennett is calling. He's more fiery than Damon Richardson. But again, if you don't know me, how do you know this guy's more fiery?
Right.
You got to have something to compare that to. But let Sonetter tell it. He never saw a video. He doesn't know anything. I never heard of this guy before. Never heard him talk. Never heard anything that he's ever done before. Who is this guy? Who is Damon Richardson? You know, but Pastor Bennett is supposedly more fiery than me. The joke of the night, though, is when Pastor Bennett gets on and he's like, man, this is a shame, man. Damon Richardson has been trying to get on the line and you won't let him in. And so even Bennett is saying that, you know, you obviously know the guy and you know what he's capable of, you know that, and you're essentially trying to protect your whole base, so to speak, by not letting him on. You're really ignoring him, but you're telling your audience one thing when the reality is another thing. So even Bennett got on, right, saying the very same thing. Captain Tazariak was he was asking me in there for a debate. He let him on. Then he let some other lady on who claimed to be a student of young Pharaoh. These are all the people that he wants to talk to. You know, so clearly it's a very dishonest community. They have interest to protect. Those interests are primarily money. And if you talk to them long enough, you'll find out that that's all they're about. When I asked Shaka for a debate, so Shaka says on Garfield's platform that you're a liar. You're a liar. You never asked me for a debate. Never. This is the first time I'm ever even communicating with you. And I'm like, this is just unbelievable, man. The level of dishonesty in these fellas. And so I did misspeak and say that I asked him for a debate about theism and atheism. And the reality is that I had asked Ankh for that debate. Where did Ankh go? Ankh is off the radar somewhere. Like, I don't even know where Ankh is anymore. It's just like, as soon as Damon Richardson asked these cats for a debate, they disappear. So I did get that confused. And I said, well, I wasn't trying to be deceptive. I did get you and Ankh confused, but make no mistake about it. I did, in fact, ask you for a debate, and you did essentially run because you said you've got other programs to do. So then he agrees to do the debate on the program just for his audience to think he's not afraid.
Actually, before you do that, so we come to know about that video because someone posted it again in the Woke Christian, and the way they phrased it was Shaka rocks Richardson. That's the title of the video that you're about to talk about. So now tell us exactly what transpired in this video where Shaka
let me work my way backwards there. So at the end of the conversation, we get to the debate piece, because my whole thing on there, I just got on Garfield asked me to come on and talk about the whole Sonetter dodging thing. Next thing I know, he's letting Shaka into the conversation. And that's fine. You know, ain't nobody scared. Ain't nobody scared. So Shaka comes on and he wants me to ask Shaka whatever I would have asked him that night. And so I asked Shaka the question. I said, you were going on Sonetter's program about how West Africans knew nothing of Christianity. They knew of Islam, but nothing of Christianity until they got on the slave ship and they were introduced to Christianity through white people, slave ship Jesus and all that whole deal.
Right.
And I said, so we know it's a historical fact that the Portuguese missionaries brought Christianity to West Africa in the late 16th century, right? So we already know that's a fact. Right. I said, but my question to you is, where did the Portuguese or other Europeans get Christianity from? What they know about Christianity, where did they get that from? And so he proceeds to say, well, that's irrelevant. You know, the fact that our ancestors got it from the white man. I said, no. I said, but where did they get it from? That's irrelevant. So I said, you heard it here, folks. He won't answer the question. I said, it's not because he can't answer the question. He won't. And he won't because he'll shoot himself in the foot. His whole argument collapses by answering that question. So in reality, I could have hung up at that point. I should have hung up at that point. You see, so he goes on trying to make string some ridiculous logic together. All I'm doing on the call is trying to get him to clarify whatever his view is so we can determine what we're going to debate about. So this is really not a debate. It's a back and forth because I'm trying to get him to clarify what his view is so that I can make sure. And so towards the end of the conversation, you could hear me say, okay, got it. Now I see where you're coming from. You're essentially holding to a zeitgeist position about where Christianity comes from. And if that's your position, then let's start talking about debating that, right? You believe Christianity is really a borrow of Greek mythology, which is really just a ripoff of, Egyptian mythology. Right. And so that's your argument, is what you want to argue. I said, funny is that was part of Polite's argument. I said, so we get it all the way down to that. Everything else that he was talking about, making all kinds of ridiculous assertions about Martin Luther King. I had already debunked people like the one girl in the chat. Oh, Richardson didn't have any evidence. The evidence is everywhere. It is that Martin Luther King today, if he were alive, would not hold that position. Liberal scholars today don't hold the position that Christianity is a borrower of Mithraism, which is the position that King was arguing in his doctoral days. He actually argued that as part of his dissertation. And so I was like, even liberal scholars would not hold that. Liberal scholars today realize that Mithraism, in the form that we discuss it today, right, came around in the late 2nd century, far too late for it to have influenced Christianity.
In fact, if they're going to talk about, they got to talk about which one, because the Roman iteration was not the same as the one that was in Persia. Those were two.
Right, and Persian Mithraism had essentially died out. So that it was you're right. It was an earlier cult, but it didn't have all of the later trappings and forms of Mithraism as a more developed cult under the Roman Empire. It is that Mithraism that King and certain liberal scholars were asserting influenced Christianity. They now know it came around way too late. In fact, they not only know that it didn't influence Christianity, they now know that it was Christianity that actually influenced Mithraism. Right. And so the reality is that, I said, hey man, because he tried to say King was heavily influenced by this one particular black scholar. And I said, be that as it may, the reality is that King was influenced by by German theologians who were Protestant liberals. I said, those are the facts. And I even asked him, I said, well, since you know so much about who King was influenced by, I said, well, who did King base his dissertation on? And so I told him, I said, he based his dissertation on the works of Paul Tillich. Oh, I didn't know that. But Damon got smacked down and like this dude did a whole lot of stuff. And so then he goes on talking about this whole thing about some of the early church fathers, and he attempted to create some bad logic between the fact that they were using
Plato, right.
So he makes a categorical fallacy by suggesting that because they used Greek philosophical constructs to clarify their theology, that must mean that they borrowed their theology from the Greeks. And I'm like, what? I'm like, and then he even said it. They invented it in the 2nd century. They created. I said, oh, I really hope we can do this debate. Because I'm not going to give up my arguments there. I wasn't on the phone to give up my arguments. I just wanted to clarify that these are your positions. And I even told them, if anybody was listening, I was like, Shaka, listen, stop talking, take the sugar daddies out of your ear and listen. I said, if you show up arguing this, I'm going to bury you beneath a pile of evidence in round 1. I said, you're not even going to get 3-0. It's going to be a first round knockout. End of the debate. I said, because this is, nobody would argue like this, that knows that has an inkling of knowledge it's embarrassing talking to these guys. It really is. And so he agrees to do the debate, but then he turns around. Listen to this, folks. And if you don't take my word for it, go back and listen to it. But then he turns around and wants to make the debate a crapshoot, a dice game, and says, how much money you willing to put on it? So you can hear me say, excuse me? Like, what? Gave him the old Shaggy, gave him the old Scooby-Doo. Shaggy? What are you talking about, man? Yeah, I want how much of your money you gonna put on the debate? Because I want to take your money. I said, well, how you gonna take my money? Like, what does that even mean? Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, winner takes all. I was like, what? Bro, I was like, first of all, who's gonna declare the winner? Like, who's gonna do that? How do you take something subjective like who won and declare that and declare that as a winner? I said, it's everybody at the debate makes that decision in their own mind.
Right.
There's no official who won. Now, if folks know what they're looking at, then I said, but your community has the ability to watch a man get his head beat in for 12 whole rounds and then still declare that man the winner. I said, so you can't declare a winner in. I said, why don't you just focus on showing up with your evidence and let's just do the debate. If you're worried about money, we can make money. We'll charge people for streaming. You create your own streaming gate. Your folk that like you will pay for it to see. I'll create a streaming gate at a reasonable price. Folk who want to see me debate you will pay for it, right? I'm not saying how much you need to charge your folk. I got in my mind something reasonable. I'll make a little bit of money. My main thing is I just want to do the debate. Let's keep the main thing the main thing. Right. Well, I'll think about it. I was like, come on now, Shaq. Don't do what Polite did. Don't try to create an unrealistic condition to a debate talking about its money. You and I both know the issue's not money because I just told you how you can make money from it. Your issue is that you want to turn it into something other than a debate. And I'm not, this is not the street. It's not a street corner. This is not a pay-for-play basketball game. I know about all of that. You know what I mean? Right. I'm from the hood. I've seen cats put $100 on the court to get in the game to play. You know what I mean? And I've seen that same dude pick up all the rest of the money on the court because he won the game. That's not what we're doing here. This is an academic exercise. This is an exercise in a forensic science. It is called debate, right? We're not going to sully, this debate by making it some crapshoot. We're just not going to do that. Shaka could never agree. Well, just hit me up on Facebook. We could talk about it. No. We don't need to talk about it. Let's just agree to do the debate. Let's at least agree on that. And that's it. We don't need to discuss that any further. And again, folks, for all you cognitive dissonant type folks out there, these dudes don't want to debate Damon Richardson. They don't want to because they could not do what they do in an informal conversation. Informal conversations don't have rules. But debates, Lincoln Douglas, public policy, you name it, they have structure and order, timing. There are rules to that. These guys would never last around. So when they talk about all of my debates, they've never done those kind of debates.
Right.
They've never done it. Not a single one of them. Not a single one of them have ever done those kind of debates before. They don't know anything about it. And so they're afraid to do those kind of debates with us. The only person, again, respect to Jabari, he was willing to do it. And he was not only willing to do it, he was willing to do it with Dr. Vince Bantu, a man that has a PhD in, listen, Semitic languages. Like, boy, I don't know whether to dap you up or whether to just I don't know whether you was on a suicide mission. I don't know what in the world, but I just mad respect for you. This man, you knew this man knew what he was talking about. He has a PhD in Semitic languages, in the cultures of the ancient Near East, including Egypt, Egyptian Christianity. And this man was willing to do an actual structured debate with Dr. Vince Bantu. These guys are not willing to do that. They're only willing to sit in front of a camera and flaunt the money. And then here's what Shaka says. Shaka's like, well, everybody know me. It's all about fun. It's all about making money. See, and again, their audience hears them saying, I'm just in it for the hustle. You may as well say that because that's what you're saying.
Right.
I'm just, it's all about fun and money to me. Right? Well, if it's not about the truth, it's not about scholarship, it's not about ascertaining right versus wrong, then what do you mean? You have fun, make money. But you're telling me that is your modus operandi, that is the motivating factor behind what you're doing is fun and money? So again, these guys are charlatans. Polite, run tell him that. He's a charlatan. Tazariak, all of these guys, they are charlatans. They are clowns. They belong in the circus. They're not educators. They're not educators at all. Right? And now I know I may come across rough around the edges, this, that, and the other, but don't get it twisted. Whether I wear the hat on backwards or not, know this, that when I show up for a debate, how you hear me talking on here, how you hear me talking on my live, how you hear me talking on the phone with Garfield on his program, this, that, and the other. That's not how I get down in the debate. When it comes down to information and presenting solid information that's logical, that's clear, that's concise, that's cogent, that's verified, all of that, then I'm gangster on that part of the game, right? In a totally different way. Don't get it twisted. Don't think that. And so all he could do was try to find some ad hominem type ways to try to discredit me. Oh, Richardson said he had a PhD. Oh, and I tried to explain. I said, listen, I'm in the last leg of it. I'm essentially at this point ABD. But if you want to go down the road of saying that I'm an intellectual fraud, then you have to essentially say I'm lying about even being in the program to begin with. And anybody that knows that at that stage of the program is most of those people are already considered doctor at that point. In fact, there are people on staff, at faculty, at universities and seminaries who are referred to as a doctor. And when you look at their resume, they completed the doctoral program and then it says ABD next to it, all but dissertation. So don't tell me that's not that I'm being a fraud for even saying that. I said, but I said I give that to you. I said I'll give it to you. Not yet, in progress. Okay, you happy? I said, but here's the thing: you don't even have a high school GED. So who's the fraud? Like, who's the fraud? Who's the real fraud here? And then he was talking about, yeah, I got my queen here. She can tell me now. She's at the beginning, if she's even in the PhD program. I have no idea. But he wouldn't let me cross-examine her. I said, why don't you let me talk to her? Let me ask her a couple of questions. So now you dragging your girlfriend in to try and do some dirty work. You need your girlfriend to help you fight When I tell you that these guys are circus clowns, they don't even, and they're not just circus clowns. They're hood circus clowns. They ain't even made it to the Ringling brothers. They ain't made it to what's the other one? The African American one. What's that?
The Universal.
Universal. They ain't at that level. They not at that level. They're at the hood. They're at the county fair level. Right? The clowns at the county fair. They're at that level, but they're not. They're all right, man. I'm just. You know what?
No, I feel you. But let me ask you this now. There are some, believers, Christians who might say, well, Damon, you're such a polished and articulate individual. Why dirty yourself and jump into the ring and to the octagon to deal with these guys? Like, why waste your time doing so? What would you say to that?
Well, you know what? I'm almost starting to think that they got a point. They almost got me convinced that I am wasting my time now, quite honestly. But let me just speak to those who would say that. And I get that every single time there's some engagement. The first thing is, let's put this to rest. I'm not above these guys, and neither are you. So let's get that out of the way. We're not above people, right? So it's not beneath me to engage them, right? This is a culture. It's an urban culture, and even within the urban culture, it's part of an urban subculture, kind of like battle rap, right? Now, if you don't know anything about that, then you just don't know. But you can't speak on something that you don't know. Right. That's this kind of level. It's in your face. It's spitting. Yo, I got my cow on me. Blah, 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 blah. I got a man behind me. Blah, blah, blah. And nobody really means that. That's just the nature of it. They just, it's
the culture. It's the culture.
It's a cultural thing, right? So I get it. But what I also get is that this is the Areopagus. This is the Mars Hill of the Black community. Right. And this is what the text tells us. What is it? Acts 17? It's Acts 17, right? So when Paul is in Athens and he goes to what is called Areopagus, this is at Mars Hill. Mm-hmm. So that you can imagine, this is not a bunch of cats sitting around on a hill. That's not what it was. Right. This was an assembly. And it said that they gathered daily for nothing more but to hear something new. Right. So there were always guys presenting new arguments and new angles and different philosophies, and then they were discussing it. So Paul intentionally goes there. Is he a philosopher? No. But does he know about the philosophers? Absolutely. He's knowledgeable. He knows how to talk their language. Yep. He knows how to talk their talk. Yep. And he goes there and he utilizes Mars Hill rhetorical strategy in order to best them into hearing him, because he's got to gain a hearing first. Right. Because if he had come in a different way, what could have happened to him is he could have gotten arrested, and he possibly could have gotten killed for essentially presenting something that would have been religio illicita. That is something illegal, something outside of the framework of acceptable discussion, right? So there are rules to that discussion. So Paul has to find a way to create an angle to launch his discussion in a way that is within the framework of what they are doing there. And he utilizes the monument to the unknown God to do that. All of that took cultural strategy in order to be able to do that, right? So that's what's going on when you hear this level of engagement. You hear a strategy, right? And if you're not familiar with the strategy, at least ask, but don't criticize. Don't make it seem like I don't know what I'm doing. Now at a certain point, there is a thing called casting your pearl before swine. So I personally feel that that's what I'm doing whenever I'm talking to the Black Hebrew Israelites, or whether they're moderate or whatever. Because at the end of the day, if they're just going to dismiss what you're saying on the basis of you got that information from the Edomites,
Right.
then that's just so irrational and unreasonable that it's not worth even having the conversation. At this point, I'm weighing now because of the slime ballness, the greasiness, the dishonesty, and all of the other kind of tactics that these guys use. I'm weighing whether or not it's even worth it anymore to engage them. Because if they'll take any kind of an engagement and then try and flip that into a debate, right? I mean, you're just having a conversation and then they record it and say, oh, they had a debate. You want to hear the debate? Man, Damon got body slammed, slammed him on his neck. You know, I mean, if you're so desperate that you got to take any level of conversation and try and find cheap ways to win points, then yeah, I probably don't need to sully myself with, because and again, it's not because I'm bigger. It's because you guys are demonstrating that you don't have the maturity to be an honest and an intellectual interlocutor. You don't have the maturity to converse at that level without resorting to a whole string of expletives, like you heard. He's calling me a faggot and all kinds of other stuff. And then when he simmers down, then all of a sudden, I consider you my friend. Dude, you a bipolar or you don't even believe what you're saying. Right. But at the end of the day, I'm not being prideful, but when I tell these guys, I'm like, I really don't need to be having this conversation with you guys. Like, you guys you're not at my level. Like you can't name 5 books that you even read on the topic, but I'm having a conversation with you. And so at least show me some modicum of respect as a person that has at least submitted myself to enough discipline to matriculate through, graduate school, graduate programs or whatever. The problem with these guys is, if for some reason, name the cult. And then tell me which one of these cults you got a leader that was ever disciplined at any level, historically or theologically, at a doctoral level. Right. You can't find it in the Nation of Islam. You can't find it in Moore Science Temple. You can't find it among the Black Hebrew Israelites. You can't find it among the conscious community. What did Jabari say? He had a bachelor's in something else. Like, you understand what I'm saying? I mean, these people, there's a common thread here, folks. You know what the common thread is? The reason it's so easy for them to fall into this malaise of thinking that's so germanely false and ridiculous is because they don't have the discipline to go to school. They don't have the discipline to sit through a whole course, least a semester, least a year, they don't have it. So they all claim to be autodidactic. I guess that's the only way to learn is to teach yourself. But they all mysteriously, I taught myself, or I was taught by my teacher. And then surprisingly, your teacher has even less education than you. Look at Louis Farrakhan. Where did he ever go to school other than a teacher's college in North Carolina that he didn't even finish? And that was a 2-year program. And his teacher was Elijah Muhammad, whose education doesn't rise above the 3rd grade, whose teacher was Wallace Farr. God only knows where he even went to school, because folk don't even know where he came from. They don't know whether he's from Persia, whether he's from Pakistan, New Zealand. They don't even know where this cat came from. And he never boasted to have an education. Noble Drew Ali, none of these dudes ever sat down long enough to be educated in the field that they claim to be experts over. Ron Shields, all of them. Ron Tellem. I mean, this is not me making it up. Where did Ron Shields go to school? What did he ever finish? What program did he ever finish? Who did he ever sit down? Where did Captain Tazariak? Where did young Pharaoh? Where did they? The only cat that you can say did some disciplined learning is Umar Johnson, and that's in what is it?
Child psychiatry.
psychology. It's like psychiatry,
Yeah.
right? You know, hats off to Umar Johnson. At least he did something. At least he sat through the entire program. Now he's way out of his league now. You're trying to come on over here and talk about some theology and church history now, guys. I salute. Yeah, if you want to talk about psychology and all that, you know, I might give you a run. I might listen. And not a run, but I might give you a play. I might listen to you. I'm sure he knows what he's talking about as it relates to certain things. I may not agree with everything, but he's earned a hearing. I mean, he earned a hearing. I mean, this man has an earned medical doctorate in that field. But you don't know what you're talking about now when it comes on over to, you know, theology and church history and so forth and so on. You're just way outside of your league. And so, but again, he's not even leading a movement. I'm talking about all these folks that claim to be leading movements and people and this, that, and the other. They all share that in common. They all don't know. And then they make the argument, I don't have to go get a degree to know. Nobody said you do. Nobody said you do. But none of y'all, you going to tell me that none of y'all ever did? Not a single one. Nan, not Nan. And let me channel Trick Daddy. Not Nan one of y'all ever got a degree in the field that you claim to be experts in. Not a Nan one of y'all. And so don't tell me that you know, and that's what I'm saying. But then they want to come over here to and insult us and then make this claim that we learned everything we learned from the white man. The white man taught us everything. And the irony, folks, is everything that they are talking about comes from the white man. All of it.
Faulkner, Wallace Budge, all these scholars that talk about Egyptology, they're all white guys. All white
Every
guys.
last one of them. Every last one of them. It's just, I don't even know what else to even say, man, anymore about these guys. Is that they're beyond slippery. They're just the level of dishonesty is, and again, it doesn't make any sense for somebody to say Richardson is ducking and hiding. How many times how many times you have to hear me say, let's just debate? I mean, why do y'all keep giving these guys a pass? Why? If Polite is not scared, tell him, come find me. We'll set it up and we'll get down. If Shaka's not scared, tell him to put his dice down and agree to doing a real formal debate. I mean, I don't need a weigh-in. I don't need the size.
And you know what's crazy, Damon? There's money on the table and they're walking away from it.
Yeah.
There's a bag waiting for both these dudes.
Yeah.
And they don't want it. It's so weird. But you're about your money though, right? Yeah. So let's do it and get your paper. You get your stream, he get his stream. You guys don't have to mix your business with each other. It'll be clean and it's a payday. So what's the problem? Unless there's something else going on.
Unless there's something else. And that is the thing. There is something else. There's always something else. These guys always have a different angle, but they'll put it out to their audiences that they're fearless. Listen, I have stomped around on conscious platforms over and over and over like Godzilla, begging people to debate. They think I'm doing it because I'm trying to make a name for myself. I don't need a name. I'm just trying to show people that these guys are not who they say they are. And all that they say about Christian pastors and all this other stuff is just not true. And so I've been stomping around. I go on Garfield. I go on Ron Shields. Ron Shields wants to talk to everybody but me. And he'll tell people, oh, Richardson's itching. He's anxious to get a butt whipping. But every single time somebody approaches him about having a debate, well, you know, I'm trying to get these other young apologists on, these people who don't have a name. I'm trying to give them a shot. And so he's always talking to people of essentially no theological caliber. I mean, literally, I'm trying to tell y'all folks, I'm not making this up. I'm not the big bad wolf, so forth. I'm not a bully. I'm just bullying the bullies. To show folks that these people are really scared. They are. They're really afraid. Don't fool yourself. I know y'all get in the barbershops arguing about how y'all think Polite's the baddest and this, that, and the other. Polite is chicken. He's chicken. Churches, Popeyes, whichever one you want to name, he's a chicken. And so he picks fights like Tazariak, Shaka and them. That's who they pick. You know why? I don't know if Tazariak can spell Leviticus. Literally, Tazariak is he ain't even on their level, least the level of a Christian apology. Even they insult him for not being scholarly. Even they insult him for not making good arguments. Shaka was insulting him on Sarnetta's program before Sarnetta pushed the button to let him in. He was laughing at him. Then he turned around and tried to give him, again, that bipolar thing. Then turned around and tried to give him props. Then turned around and said, I never even seen, man, I got to say it, I've never even seen Captain Tazariak ever lose a debate. Like, Negro, I done seen people body slam Captain Tazariak. Like, you even body slammed him. What are you talking? These people are nuts. They are plumb nuts. They don't even believe what they're saying. They don't even believe it. I sat there and watched Polite sit on Sarnetta's couch with Captain Tazariak and run circles around him with Malachi York nonsense. I just don't understand these people. Like, these people, they need to be checked in. They need to see Umar Johnson.
Yeah.
So he can psychoanalyze.
David's wild out here. But again, right? And I think people misunderstand your method of your madness because they feel like, you know, people have a stereotype of what the Christian should look like and the behavior of a Christian. And even some believers will say that how you deal with them is quote unquote unchristian like, you know. So I mean, how do you feel when you get that critique?
Yeah, so those people are, if we want to talk about what's unchristian, and I did a video where I talked about I talked about shade and I talked about mockery, so forth and so on in the tradition of Scripture, and it was real tight exegesis, right? And I talked about that. I talked about that in the biblical tradition. For them to make that claim and for it to be right, they then have to take those same claims and level them against Jesus, against Paul, against Elijah, and many other persons in Scripture. See, because again, when we're looking at what they did within the context of their culture, it's not very different than what I am doing. So was Jesus being unchristian? I mean, does that even make any sense? Was Paul being, I mean, Paul said, for God's sake, Paul told Judaizers who kept harping on circumcision. He said, I just wish you cut your penis off. And you think Richardson is you think I'm bad? No. Listen, I ain't never said nothing like that. Like Paul said that in the scriptures. That's in the scriptures. That's in the inspired writ of the text. I wish you would just cut your penis, emasculate yourself. Is the way that it would read in the Greek. Come on. Right. So the people who say this, my issue with them is that their issue is that they don't know enough cultural context biblically, least cultural context in terms of what I'm dealing with, right? Because even in today's ministry, while we are exegeting the scripture historically and linguistically and from a literary standpoint, historically and culturally, we also have to exegete our own audience culturally in the context that we're dealing with. So there's that part of exegesis as well. You've got to exegete contextually your own audience. In other words, you got to know who you're talking to and how to communicate this exegesis, this biblical exegesis. How do you communicate that to this audience, which is a homiletical kind of exegesis, right? So the problem with folk who have this concern are people who don't understand that level of contextualization. In fact, I would argue they don't understand contextualization at all. So let me give you another example of what I'm talking about. There are Christian missionaries who are Arab, right? Who used to be Muslim, but they're Christians and they're Arab. And when they're talking to people about scripture, they're still using the terminology Allah.
Right.
Now, does that make any sense here in America? Absolutely not. But from a contextualization standpoint, it absolutely does. And it doesn't mean that the Christian Arab subscribes to Islam. He's simply utilizing the language of his context and utilizing the cultural context so as to do his apologetic or his evangelism, his or her evangelism. And now if you heard somebody else using the term in the pulpit and you know, and now Allah, we thank you in this, it just doesn't make any sense, right? But then don't take that criticism and then level it against an Arab Christian missionary that's utilizing, because at that point, the issue is not that they're saying Allah. The issue is that you don't understand the contextualization that they're employing strategically and methodologically in order to be able to be effective among Arab Muslims and other Arab non-believers. And so it's that same kind of thing. The people who have these concerns are people who are not giving enough thought to contextualization. They're only looking at the optics of it. Now, I'm not trying to judge them because I get it. I get it. Some of them just love me enough to where they don't want to see me looking bad. But you don't have to worry about me. Listen, my reputation is not going to stand or fall on these discourses. Nobody's going to take anything away from me. Nobody's going to say Richardson doesn't know what he's talking about. Nobody's going to say he's unsaved or whatever. They're not going to say that. They're not going to say that. You know, it just will. Some people look at it and say, he's a little too rough around the edges. I don't think we'll have him here in our setting. That's fine, because there's like 1,000 other people who will. You understand what I'm saying? I you know, that's what I would say to you know. I get your concern. Trust me, I take it into consideration. Now, if you hear me getting completely unhinged, totally just cussing and all this other kind of stuff,
you'll be getting phone calls.
Call me. And
you will be getting phone calls.
There you go. And guess what? I'm humble enough to answer those calls from any of my brothers and sisters. You don't have to have no kind of rank or enough. If BK calls me and say, yo, Rich, yo, Dane, man, listen, that you were way out of character, this, that, and the other, I'm gonna humble myself and say, you're right, brother. You're right, man. I need to repent. What do I need to do? How do I make this right? Do I need to do a live and apologize? What do I need to do?
Right. I
am accountable to all of my brothers and sisters, right? But let's just make sure that this attempt to kind of correct is being contextualized in the beginning. Because if you don't understand it, then try to understand it first before you start a program. Because I know what I'm doing. You understand what I'm saying? This is not my first time around this track.
Right.
So I know what I'm doing. I'm not. This is not arbitrary. It's not willy-nilly. I'm not waking up in the morning thinking, oh, I'll just pick a fight with the conscious community. You know, I'm not doing that. This is all strategic.
Absolutely.
It is all strategic. And yes, but I am hearing some of you, and I am beginning to wonder, does it make any more sense at this point now to continue? Because they have demonstrated a level of unreasonableness. And you know, I just, so yeah.
Right. Man, thank you so much, man. I definitely wanted you to I mean, not that you will stifle yourself, but I definitely wanted you to have a chance to really speak on the most current, you know, craziness that's been happening with the conscious community. And we really applaud and appreciate you stepping into the mud and willing to duke it out, because, and it's not that, you know, we just looking for a fight, that we all understand that there are many people that listen to these guys.
Yeah.
And they get their information from people like them. And it's their misinformation that causes people to walk away from the faith.
Yeah.
And we don't want that, right? We want to show people that, you know, you're basically lifting up the skirt of these falsehoods. It's like, look, you're gonna leave God for this? Look at this. Have you seen this? Take a good look. This is what you're gonna leave Jesus for, you know? Right. And that's why you're doing what you're doing. And we definitely appreciate and honor you for doing that, because it's not easy being a warrior you know, these skirmishes, you know what I mean, with these guys, especially since they play dirty, right? So
yeah. And I'll say this. So years ago, I used to do the street thing with the BHIs and this, that, and the other. And I'm talking about way back. I'm talking about going back to like the mid 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, I keep telling people, like, I am not new on the block at all. So you go back to the early to mid 90s. You can find me in Times Square. You can find me on Jamaica Avenue. You can find me wherever the Black Hebrew Israelites were, wherever the Nuwapians were, wherever your Nation of Islam cats were selling. Trust me. Right. Yeah, I know where they were. Fulton, Nostrand Ave, with the Final Call. I knew where the temple. I've had years of engagement with these groups, and so what I found years later more effective was not so much the one-to-one conversations with them as much as equipping people that I know they're targeting. Right? Because Nation of Islam, take all these groups, a lot of these people who have become part of that, almost all of them will tell you, I grew up Baptist, or I grew up AME, or I grew up. Now, I'm not saying they were Christians. I'm just saying that they'll all make that claim. And so the idea typically is I just wasn't getting taught over there. I wasn't learning, not until I was approached with this. And the problem is that when they were approached with these kind of ideologies and theologies, they didn't know what to think. It blew their mind and it pulled them in. And so I spend most of my time talking about what they teach to people so that they can develop their own apologetic and their own defense in terms of not only how to defend yourself against that thinking, but how to also, from a more offensive standpoint, launch your own argument against them. So that you ask them questions, you turn around and question or whatever. So I get that oftentimes the street contention, and I'm saying all this to say that the most contentious people in that community for me were always the Black Hebrew Israelites. And when I would encounter them in Times Square back in the day in Jamaica Avenue, they always wanted to act like they wanted to fight. You know what I mean? And I would prefer to remove myself from those kind of discourses if it looks like it's going to get ugly. Right. You know what I mean? Like we're all talking on Zoom and StreamYard and YouTube and all this other stuff. And people talk tough, yes. But this kind of stuff, and this is why I'm only interested, and when I do debate them, I'm only interested in real debates. Right. Because if we keep it at the street level, it'll turn into a fight.
Right. It will. It'll go left.
It'll go left. Because that's all some of these folk know. That's all they know.
Right.
I'm not saying who would win. But I'm saying it would go left.
Right.
And I'm not going to let it ever get there. Which is why, if we're going to really do this, let's make sure it's a real debate. Let's make sure it's a formal setting. One thing about these jokers, they may not love Christianity, but they still have aunties and grandmas and uncles and cousins that are. So they ain't ever going to come into the church acting up.
Right.
Because you can talk tough to me, but grandma is going to get after you about going up in the Reverend so-and-so's church acting the fool. Right. So I already know how to play that game. I'm never going to allow them to pull me out into their ring where it can get ugly like that. We can just kind of do, the Zoom thing back and forth kind of deal, but it's never going to be where, it ain't going to turn into a Biggie, Tupac, East Coast, West Coast kind of joint where somebody's getting shot.
Right.
No. And so I would rather walk away and never have conversation with them and keep doing the kind of apologetics that I'm doing, where I'm equipping people so that they know what these guys believe, what they stand for. And so when they're approached with some of these contentions and propositional ideas or whatever, they'll know how to handle it, how to deal with it, how to even answer it, because they've already been listening to, and it's not just me. Again, it's so many of us out here. You got Nefer, we got my man BK, we got Adam Coleman, True ID, Jerome Gay. It's so many people out there. Dude, Michael Holloway, he hardly ever gets, ever gets any, but it's just so many people out here. Like if I start naming, I'm sure to forget, but there's so many people who have been doing this, who are really grind vocab. There's so many. I just don't get me to start name dropping, because I'm just going to leave folk out unintentionally, and that are due respect for the work that they put in to apologetics, educating and teaching, so forth and so on. Dr. Eric Mason, on and on and on. The list, men and women. Right. Miss Titus too. Well, again, I can name all kinds of people. It's some good folk out here, and the good thing that I love about this is that it's grassroots enough to where you don't feel like you got to be a Mike Lacona to do this. You don't feel like you got to be a Ravi. You don't feel like you got to be. Urban apologetics has returned apologetics back to its grassroots, where it always was in early Christianity, where again, Peter was telling general believers, be ready, be in a stance, get in your set to give an answer to anybody that asks you, anybody, right? And that's grassroots. That's a posture. It's a disposition that Peter says every believer ought to be ready for. And the one thing that I love about, again, the urban apologetics community is that it keeps grassroots folk equipped, prepared, ready, engaged, so that any one of these jokers can get it. They don't need to debate me. Anybody over there can get it from anybody over here, because our folks they've been trained, they've been ready. And you understand what I'm saying? That's why you don't see these crazy memes floating around like it used to be. Go back 5 years or more. You don't see the crazy memes floating around. They might put it in a group, but you don't see it floating around. And that is because we have jumped on that so badly. We have ridiculed the authors of these memes to no end that these folks are shook to even put that kind of material out there, because we can jump on that. And I'm talking about, we're not talking, you got me? I'm talking about anybody over here can answer to these things. So anybody over there can get it from anybody over here. You don't have to have a name, because what I'm saying is urban apologetics has been so effective that we've equipped a generation of young minds, white, black, Hispanic, you name it, that folks stay ready. They stay with their Glock 66. Come on, 39 in the old, 27 in the new. Stay strapped. We keep the gat on us. We keep it on us. Of the word, right? We talk about the word. We talk about the word.
With the word. With the word.
We talk about the word. We keep it on us. Anybody, and that's what I'm saying. So they're not ready. They're not ready. They're not ready. So there you go.
Man, I appreciate you taking the time to really build on this, man. It's always a pleasure to have you in the platform, bro. Is there anything that's coming up that we need to be aware of? Any conferences, any talks that you'll be a part of that we need to know about?
Just stay with me on my Logos stuff. I'm constantly trying to get folk to learn more and equip themselves. Coming up, me and Holloway, we didn't set a date yet. That might be coming up in October. We'll be talking about, I think it's something on predestination or election or something like that. And so we got a little friendly little spar kind of situation coming up. And he's a good brother, though. He's a good brother. We disagree on that, but his position is still in the pale of orthodoxy. So you would never hear me saying he's not a Christian. He doesn't know the gospel. So that's kind of what you would call friendly debate banter within the household of faith, within the pale of orthodoxy. So that one will be it's going to be tooth and nail, though. I'm not going to go easy on him. I'm going to knock him upside his head. I told him already, I'm going to take you out for a steak, because food will always make you feel better. Mike is a good guy. He's a good brother. So that might be coming up somewhere in October. But I'm definitely going to be kind of trimming down some of my time because I'm back finishing up,
Right.
Finishing up program. So we just kind of got kicked off on Monday, and I got all these folk who have invested. I'm not letting nobody down. So this is gonna be all our PhD. This is gonna be all our degree here. So I got to keep my head in the books. Got to keep writing. Got to keep focused. You'll see me pop up every now and again, but I'm definitely going to be cutting back some of the time because I definitely need to finish this. For the team.
Absolutely.
For all of us. So yeah.
That's what's up. And for me, so later on tonight, guys, as many of you know, we will be coming back here for the Bodega Bible Talk that we have every Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also this Sunday, the Bodega Ladies will be appearing at Titus 2 channel with a very special response video. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to say who we're responding to, and your boy might show up and be there with the Bodega Ladies as well. So with that being said, any last words, Mr. Richardson, before we out of here?
I'm going to put my my special discount piece in the chat room. There's a 25% discount. I just want to put that in there.
Sure.
I don't have my glasses on. I'll leave that in there. But I do want to say also go to Urban Low Gift. Support my man BK. Y'all subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do it. Hit him up. If his Cash App is in there, PayPal or whatever, support this brother. This is a good brother. He does good work, very organized, very tactical. I have learned many things from him. He's an encouraging brother. And his ministry is definitely worthy of support. I respect him. Everybody that I know respects this brother, and let's keep supporting him. Urban Logia Ministries, if you can hit that, if you could subscribe for me, I would definitely love to hit the 10,000 mark sometime before the end of the year. And but we love you guys, man. I appreciate you for having me back on your platform again. I'm just a trash talker, man. That comes from my playing basketball days.
Right.
Major trash talker. And it was all love, but it was just that's how it was on the court. Right. And so, a little bit of that survived. A little. Some of that survived.
But again, it's the cultural, right? It's the culture that we're dealing with, and that's part of culture, right? So
yeah.
Right. So we definitely understand that, bro. So with that being said, it's Damon Richardson and BK Apologies signing off. Catch you later. Peace.